Hello and welcome to A-Level Biopsychology Revision. First of all, we'll start off with localization of function, which is basically just where the different parts of the brain are located. There are 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the parietal lobe. The frontal lobe has an area called Broca's area, which deals with speech, and the temporal lobe deals with hearing. It's the auditory area. It contains an area called Wernicke's area for speech comprehension. Don't get that confused with Broca's area. There is also the occipital lobe, which is the visual area and deals with sight. And the parietal lobe has the somatosensory area, which deals with the senses, and the motor area, which deals with movement. There is also 2 other parts, called the cerebellum and the brainstem. The cerebellum regulates higher intellectual processes such as thinking, and the brainstem sends information to and from the rest of the body. Methods of cortical specialization. There are 4 methods that you need to know for your exam. The invasive method is a post-mortem. This is where the brain is examined after death. Usually the patient has been the subject of a longitudinal study of a rare affliction. This is good because it gives us a greater understanding of rare afflictions in individuals. However, as it's an invasive procedure, it's difficult to get access to a brain. This is bad because it's rarely used. Next we have a PET scan. This is where radioactive glucose is injected into the bloodstream and is used as energy by the brain. The scan detects and measures radioactivity emitted when solving problems. This is good as it provides detailed knowledge of areas of the brain which are active during tasks, so it gives us a greater understanding of which areas of the brain do what. However, there are ethical issues with radioactive glucose because it could cause illness, so it may be refused and it's less likely to be used. Next you have an MRI scan. This is where scanners produce magnetic fields, and the patients lie in the scanner. Their body is exposed to radio waves, which sends protons out of alignment, and as they realign, this sends out signals which the scanner detects to produce detailed images of the brain. It produces detailed image of an individual's brain, which gives us a greater understanding of what the brain looks like and how it works, which is useful. And it's also been successful in diagnosing brain and spinal cord diseases. However, it is time-consuming and can't record spontaneous behaviour. This means another type of scan, such as an EEG scan, may be more useful for this. It's also claustrophobic, so it's less likely to be used by patients with this phobia. Finally, we have an EEG scan. This is a scan which records electrical activity of the brain using electrodes attached to the head. It measures the brainwave patterns whilst problem solving. This is good because it's been successful as a diagnostic tool for epilepsy and sleep disorders. It's also safe, painless, and allows natural measurements of brain activity, which patients prefer, so it's more likely to be used. Now we move on to neurons. There are 3 different types of neurons. Sensory neurons receive information from the senses and send signals to the central nervous system. Interconnecting neurons are found in the central nervous system and connect to and from sensory and motor neurons. Motor neurons receive information from the central nervous system and send the signals to the muscles and internal organs. Structure of a neuron. A neuron is made up of 6 main parts. It has a nucleus, which contains the genetic material for the cell function, and the cell body, which contains the nucleus. It also has dendrites, which receive messages from adjacent neurons. These messages travel down the axon. The axon transmits electrical signals. The axon has a myelin sheath, which insulates the axon from external influences that may affect transmission. The end of the axon is terminal buttons. These send signals to an adjacent cell. Here's how neurons work. 2 neurons connect at the synapse. There is a gap there called the synaptic cleft. The nerve impulse travels down one neuron and releases neurotransmitters. These chemicals are taken up after they cross the synaptic cleft by the next neuron, and the impulse continues. Divisions of the nervous system. The nervous system is split into two main pathways. First of all is the central nervous system, which receives and sends information to and from the brain. This is also split up into two, the spinal cord and the brain. The spinal cord deals with all life functions, while the brain maintains life and is responsible for higher functions, such as thinking. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, which sends information to and from the senses and from the central nervous system. This is also split up into two again, the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system sends information to and from the central nervous system, while the autonomic nervous system sends information to and from internal organs. Again, the autonomic nervous system is split up into two, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. During a fight or flight situation, the sympathetic nervous system increases bodily functions, while the parasympathetic nervous system, after a fight or flight situation, maintains homeostasis and decreases bodily functions. And we're moving on to the endocrine system. The endocrine system works with the somatic nervous system to release hormones slowly into the bloodstream. However, in a flight or fight situation, ACTH stimulates the adrenal glands to release adrenaline. Adrenaline constricts blood vessels in the stomach and increases heart rate. Here's what the sympathetic nervous system does in a fight or flight situation. It may dilate the pupils, inhibit saliva, increase breathing, inhibit digestion, and increase heart rate. Whereas the parasympathetic nervous system, after a fight or flight situation, will contract the pupils, stimulate saliva, decrease breathing, stimulate digestion, and decrease heart rate.